the Black Collective is started here. So, and we're more powerful than we realize. I really believe that. We have more power than we know what to do with. Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to add the last little part about that always stuck out to me. I never been in corporate America because when he was retiring, I asked him why. I said, why you was retiring? He said, because Xerox will never be Kinsey and Son. So that then told me I didn't really need to go that route. But what always stuck out to me about the Xerox story was that they kept a flat organization, right? Meaning that no matter your position, as far as you were black, you could be at have the lowest position in the company, but you had a direct line on the VP or whoever it was, and you gonna take your call, you know what I mean, and get behind you and help you. And I think that's the representation and that's the example that we all gotta have. A lot of times now, we're gatekeepers to each other, and there's some historical reasons for that. You know what I mean? But we keep each other at bay because we're taught that there's only room for a few of us at the top, or whatever it is.
Good. That's a good one, Tracy. And I have some Negroes right now. I call them and they won't take my call. And I mean, there's some Negroes out here. You follow me? That act stupid. That they think they're greater than thou. I said, man, are you kidding me? 40 years ago, I did your job. Okay? And as long as we have this separation, we're never going to be able to get this thing done. Support this young lady here. Okay?
Thank you.
My 1867.
You have the next question.
Oh, yes. So how do you pick which item to acquire? And then has there been something that you regret not getting?
I'm going to tell the Malcolm X story. We ended up getting the Malcolm X story. 1863. Malcolm X writes to Alex Haley, I want this piece. I know we can get it. So our trainer needed me to take him to catch his bus. So I said, do I have time? Yeah, being a nice guy. So I take him to catch the doggone bus. When I come back, it's soaked. Because they went fast. You know how I want you to. The next day, the head of Swan called me and said, Mr. Kinsey, I heard that you lost the Malcolm X piece. And we called the guy that bought it. And he agreed to sell it to you for what he paid for it.
Wow. Which is unheard of.
It's just unheard of. And so this is a lesson for young people and not so young. Your integrity is everything. Because of the relationship that we had built with Swan in terms of who we are and what we are and so forth and so on, they took it upon themselves to do it. We didn't ask for it. So that's a piece we should not have. Okay?
But it's in the gallery. You're gonna see it.
It's a special piece.
And tell them why that piece is important.
Huh?
That piece is important.
You tell them, Larry.
Because that piece is important because he writes a letter downstairs saying we're going to be able to finish my autobiography because I've canceled all of my speaking engagements and I should cancel it in January. What had just happened then? Malcolm X said something against Kennedy. Chickens have come on the roost, and Elijah Muhammad silenced him. And so that letter tells such a story about what will go on to be the Malcolm X we know as El Haj, Malik Shabazz, and so on and so on.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I'll just say, as far as how we look at collecting and everything, it's kind of two-pronged. There's one is personal, of course, personal preference, all of that, and then now probably more than anything is the exhibition and the narrative. So it's about what holes can we fill, what gaps can we fill, what more can we illuminate of the story. A lot of times in the collection there are, singularly, they may seem like something a little more benign or not as important, but when put as far as connective tissue and context, they're extremely vital to, information and things to understand. So there's a lot of, Pops as a kind of natural historian is always very focused on the historical record of America, and it's very nuanced, it's very layered. And so there are always objects that we're on the lookout for, and then always there are new things new points of information that you then, that kind of, focus you even more on what you're looking for and all of that. And then of course for me, it's important to continue to bring the collection forward as far as young artists, emerging artists, contemporary artists, and being able to support that, but also more recent history that we can continue to bring the story forward. But yeah, it's a very, it's a focused effort for us to really be able to provide more context.
If you get a chance, when you go and you see the Black Panther poster, it's just beautiful with the panther, right in the middle. It's just a beautiful piece, and people would say, well, Black Panther history is not collectible. We thought it was. Now it is collectible. You see what I mean? So here's a technique we talk about. Everybody wants to collect Jacob Lawrence, Winnie Jacob Lawrence. What you have to do is figure out who the next Jacob Lawrence is before he becomes Jacob Lawrence. You follow me? Because if you wait till he becomes Jacob Lawrence, it's $1 million piece. You follow me? So what we're always saying is, what we tell collectors is, you don't collect anything until you read. You have to train your eye. You train your eye by reading and have knowledge and understanding. And once you have that, you can step into it. There are 3 things to keep a culture alive. 1, the artists. And we have some artists in the room. We need you to produce. Right here, the sister's doing a public sculpture right now. Raise your hand, let everybody see. Right here. So you need artists like this young lady and others that are coming. We say art is the highest form of thought. It's the highest form of communication. Okay? It makes the invisible visible. Okay? So that's what comes out. And the reason you want to buy black art, because black people, because we live in this oppressive place called America, we express that in our art. You follow me? And so that's why you see it in all kind of ways. And oftentimes, invisibly, it's there. And when you see an Ava Cozy piece that's current, but she has the green dress on, but on there's all the writings and there are every invention that black people have done in a contemporary piece. You see what I mean? So that's how we want you to think about this. The second thing you need are museums like Tacoma. You need art galleries. And if you want to know more about collecting, go to art galleries. Go to every one of them, white, black, blue, green, and learn. Train your eye. And then the third part of keeping the culture is having collectors. Wayne has a wonderful collection. Follow me and just went to his house. If you don't collect this stuff, buy it from artists, the culture dies. The culture dies. So it's not enough to go by the print. It's not bad. But if you want to help artists, buy it from them so that they can have the energy to be able to keep going and freshen this notion of culture. Okay? And at one point in our history, the African American story almost died because we were not able to produce anything. We have a lot of pieces of Khalil to tell you that are made out of wood because back then we didn't have canvas. They did it in plaster because they couldn't buy bronze. Didn't make it any less valuable or wonderful, but that was just the nature of the times. So we have to keep our culture alive by doing that, okay? Producing, showing, and purchasing, okay?
All right, another question. I saw that. Another question right here.
Yes. First, I'd like to say thank you so much for sharing your collection with us. I think everybody enjoyed it immensely. And what my question is where were you and what were your thoughts when you bought your first piece of artwork?
I'll take that one. And I won't start with, I'll back up just a little. Initially, Bernard and I were traveling quite a bit, and so we always found we enjoyed indigenous culture work. Bernard was a park ranger in the Grand Canyon in the summer before we were married, so we used to always go to the national parks. And we always looked at Native American artwork. We have sand paintings, so I have stained glass, all kinds of stuff. And in collecting that, and then going to foreign countries, especially going to Mexico, we looked at Teotihuacans and Mayans and finding all the similarities between them, really. Also then understanding that it was similar to what African beadwork was like, African basket work was like, African paintings were like, African masks. And we started collecting African American art originally. Our first real piece was Ernie Barnes, who, for me and well, for both of us, his work always featured young people playing a game, shooting marbles, jumping rope, basketball, whatever. And that always reminded us of Florida, growing up in the South, for one thing, because of the Bird Road and all that stuff. And the Ernie Barnes piece we bought was not an original, it was a print, but we liked it. And it was High Aspirations. I don't know, Gars, are you still here? Dory? What's your name? Oh boy, okay. Because when Bernard was branch manager in Oakland in 1978, his branch was #1. And so for his sales reps, he said, you know what? Instead of giving them a plaque with the stats on it, I'm going to ask, because we met Ernie Barnes by then, I'm going to ask Ernie to give us some prints of his high aspirations. And that's what I'm going to give my sales reps, with their name, their stats, and so on. And it was amazing because a young man in Washington a few years ago told us he still had his. He was hanging in a game room or whatever, but he still had it. And we look back on it now, we say, we didn't think about it at the time, but in a way we were trying to impart our culture, the interest of our culture to other people at that time, because it was just something that we did. From there, we began with personnel, the Ernie Barnes pieces. We laugh about it now because we said we've given so many to our cousins and nieces and aunts and uncles. You don't have it. But that was one of our first ones. Now, back up just a little bit. Bernard says you need to read first. I always say, when you see a piece of art, first of all, don't buy anything that's going to match your sofa. Don't do the decorative art stuff. But when you do see something that really makes your heart go feel that, you want to wake up in the morning and look at it and smile, and that's what you might want to buy. But again, it doesn't have to be originally. You just find that great work and work from there. We are, in terms of meeting artists, and this is good for young artists, up-and-coming artists, find a patron of your arts, one thing, and you get somebody to do art shows for you. Have them at your home. Have art shows at the church. You know, and it's a way then for the artists to be able to sell their work without commissions and all that kind of stuff. And it introduces your artist friends to your friends and to their friends. And we've done that.
Social capital.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to do the Harold Moss thing. He who has the mic is in charge. I'm just messing with Wayne. You guys know I'm doing exactly what Wayne tells me to do, but I'm gonna stand up here and pretend like I'm doing my own thing. Do we have one more question? And if not, how many of you have heard the story about how Bernard and Shirley met? Anybody know that story? Okay, only a few people have heard it. Okay, so that was gonna be, I had 2 questions, but I'll ask that one. So will you tell us how you all got together? It's a great story.
Yeah, well, let me say this. So 1963, during the heaviest part of the civil rights movement, Tallahassee and St. Augustine were Florida's equivalent to Selma and Montgomery. It was serious. And so I was kind of responsible for being a junior to help organize and help the people the student,
Chairman of the Young Democrats.
Young Democrats. So getting them, you know, when they go to jail to assist in that whole thing. But here's this young, cute 17-year-old. I remember what she was wearing that day. She walked off to jail. And her mama told her, first of all, I'm sending you to North Carolina so you won't go demonstrate in St. Augustine.
Dr. King had been in my hometown that
Yeah.
summer.
Yeah. Okay.
Dr.
So,
King had been in my hometown that summer, and Mama had sent me away to my sister in
And-
North Carolina, and so I could get a job and work that summer before going to school. And 2 weeks after I got in college, Florida A&M University, and I found out that SNCC was gonna be demonstrating, then I felt like I had to go. I had to.
and I tell you, Tallahassee had about 30 or 40 police officers, and they gave them all brand new billy clubs. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. We had a lot of football players, had one that had skull injury. I mean, this thing about demonstrating, we can look at it prosaically now. It was a serious effort. You know what I mean? It came out of Black Hawk.
So back to how.
Don't you love how they check each other? How they really care for one
But I
another?
don't check, I just hit recheck.
Anyway, one of my friends that went to jail with me, we were there for 3 days, and I'd throw away the clothes we were wearing, because we had to the whole time and all this stuff. And we actually did get dressed, you know, because we supposed to look nice when we were downtown, you know, you didn't just go out.
White people didn't want to do that.
And at 17, to be honest with you, I really didn't think that I was going to get arrested. I thought we'd be able to go back to campus and talk about our experience.
Everybody laughed.
And so Bernard being a part of this organization is sort of helping us navigate the system somewhat. Maybe Saylor, my best friend during that time, and still is, had said to me there was this guy in her class that had these green eyes, and she didn't say about the eyes. He wrote me a note. He wrote me a note. She thought that the note being interested in her, or the note was to her, saying he wanted to meet me. She was in New York and a little more outgoing than I was, frankly. And she wanted to tell him, now, look, if you take her out, if she goes out, we can get take the movie on campus, or the dances on campus. She ain't going nothing on campus now. But maybe wanted to go to the parties on campus. So she was saying, maybe if I go with her, she might go.
The first movie we went to, this is 1963, was 40 Pounds of Trouble. You know that? And
Tony Curtis is.
yeah, and because
Somebody came on.
all of the movie theaters were segregated, so everything was done on campus. I mean, you gotta think about 1963 differently than you think today, okay? And not that we were deprived, don't get me wrong, because I love our experiences from Florida now. But Shirley would not go off campus with me. She wouldn't go to the little clubs. And so I had to work up, I think I had to go from September to November to get a serious date off campus, you know. But I wrote my mama this long note, and I told her that I thought I had met, you know, someone I wanted to marry. And I was going with another young lady. She was Miss Senior. So Shirley was Miss Freshman, and Miss Judy I was going with, you know, so I'm getting in trouble all the way around.
I didn't know I was gonna get into all this. I was at the show more. I thought you were gonna let me
Because I'm a freshman, I didn't know.
Well, see, now he's opening up. We gotta hear what happened. No, it is 6:30. I wanted you all to hear that story because I just found that so heartwarming. And so I wanted you to hear. But I know it's 6:30. Y'all want to get upstairs, but I gotta ask Khalil one question. We gotta hear from Khalil one more time. Khalil, as you look at your parents and you look at what they are now contributing to the world, and now you're a part of that. As you look at your parents and you hear them tell this, because you hear this all the time.
I got some more too.
Yeah. watching your parents and what they've done, how does that influence and drive you to be who you are?
You heard my father say, when the pupil is ready, the teacher will appear. There's another one that says, don't push the river, it flows by itself. And so things, wind up being most outcomes are very natural. There was a lot in my life that I had to go out in the world and experience for myself. And, good decisions, bad decisions in between. But there was always the foundation of my household. And it was my mother and father, it was my grandparents, it was the friends and family, my aunts and uncles, and aunts and uncle figures in my life that had a huge influence on me in all kinds of ways. And they always brought me up in like very adult situations, or just like environments where I was, the one often the only kid in the room. I'm an only child, but always engaged as far as my thoughts and input and ideas and all of that. Not really shielded from the conversations and all that stuff. I look back on that very, very fondly, but also very gratefully because it really shaped so much for me. So that travel was huge, and it continues to be huge in our lives. My parents being avid travelers and imparting that to me at a young age, and that I carry that on. And the kind of discovery, both outwardly and inwardly, that provides. And then just, the example of partnership, for me, I remember, I think I said this a while back, but I remember when I was kind of, when I was out there, I remember Pop saying, you ain't gonna get in between me and your mom's relationship, or something like that, right? Now, to some people that might sound wild, as far as telling their kid that they're not, you know what I mean? A lot of people make their children their world, and that's, you should, but you also have to know where it started. You know what I mean? And that nothing moves without that core, right? So I remember them saying, you ain't gonna get him, you know what I mean? Like, it was, cause I was wilding.
Go ahead, tell the truth.
But I look back on that with it hit me then. I respected it then, and I respect it even more now. Because they had their compass, they had their core, they had their mission. What they didn't say is they got married at FAMU, on FAMU's campus, 1967. I won't go to it. Well, no, my favorite thing is that Pop and my Uncle Nick and his boys took the dorm room. They also moved into an apartment on campus. They took the dorm room furniture, stole the dorm room lobby furniture to furnish this apartment. Got caught the next day. No, but I love it. But it's a lot more. It's some great stuff. But I won't take no more. But that's truly the bedrock of that core example of partnership, of love and partnership, and looking at the same future together, and all that is what I have connected with the most. You know what I mean? Is that they have been lockstep this entire time. And so, to come up in that, and then I just came back around. You know what I mean? The foundation that was laid. I tell parents all the time. I tell parents, any parents out here of young children, or teenage children, or people that, especially those that may be trying to find their way. I always say, trust in the foundation that you laying for them. You know what I mean? Because it's gonna be all right.
And for those of you who didn't go to church today, there was your word. Thank you all so much. It was my honor just to be part of this conversation this afternoon. And now you all are going to, is someone going to give them instructions, or am I giving them instructions? Okay. So there are two galleries. Okay, there are two galleries, and so you all can go up and